What's up vlog? Welcome back. I'm doing a little something different today. We are just going to have a sit down Q&A chat. I've been getting so many questions from you guys on all different social media platforms regarding my life here in China, how I got here, how I've been experiencing life here. So I thought, let me do a little bit of a vlog regarding it, because that way I can go a little bit more in depth. You can always come back to the vlog if you need a little bit of a reminder. If you know of someone who wants to come over, then you can share the video with them. And I'm gonna try and be as helpful as I possibly can. I kind of compiled all the different questions I've gotten from so many of you guys, put them all together, and I just thought I'd answer them on here. Let's jump into the questions. If you have any more questions that I haven't answered in this video, you can drop it in the comments, or you can reach out to me on my social media platforms, and then I will try and answer them as accurately as I possibly can. Okay, so with that being said, I'm South African. I've flown from South Africa to China, and I just want to straight off the bat say everyone's experience is so different. I literally have an Instagram series dedicated to me sharing how much of an inexperienced traveler I am, for the joke of it, but truly I had never before coming to China gone through a visa process. I've never lived on my own. I've never done anything independent or adult-like before actually moving my life to China. Your process could be a lot smoother, a lot simpler, a lot cheaper, and a lot easier. If I would have watched a video like the one I'm making right now, I probably would have avoided a lot of the oopsie daisies that I experienced. So with that being said, your journey might not look like mine. I made a lot of mistakes. I learned a lot of lessons, and I actually have been avoiding making this video for so long because I really felt so stupid. Like, thinking back on the journey and the mistakes I made, I honestly just felt too silly to sit down and do this video, because I was like, I'm gonna look so stupid. So many people have reached out to me asking questions and telling me they're on their way to China and they don't even have the basics down. Has made me realize how bad the situation could be for other people, how much worse the situation could be for other people than it was for me. So I thought, let me just do this. I know I'm gonna sound like an idiot potentially, but knowing that there are people who are just as clueless as me, or knowing there are people who are even more clueless than me, hopefully putting this video out there can help someone, even if it's just one human being. I'm very lucky that I have a friend who lives in China. She's been in China for, I think it's like 7 years now already. So she helped me so much with the process, which I'm very, very grateful for. To this day, I don't know how I would have gotten here if it wasn't for her. I hope that this video can provide at least one human being with some guidance on how to get here in the most efficient way possible. So I'm going to share what I have learned, what I have experienced, and that could be different for anyone and from anyone. So just try and do as much research as you can. Try to speak to as many people as you can. So don't attack me if I sound like a clueless human being, because I am aware that I am also still learning, and that what I have learned so far might be common knowledge to most people. Okay, so the question I get asked most is, what TEFL course did I complete? So I came over just simply to teach English. I didn't have the plan to teach any other subjects, which is something that you can look into doing, of course, if you're not wanting to just teach English. But for teaching English, you have to complete your TEFL course, which is teaching English as a foreign language. So this certificate you need alongside any other degree. So I had a degree in business management and marketing, nothing relating to teaching, and then I just completed my TEFL course through TEFL Academy. So I did the highest level option available. I really loved TEFL Academy. Everything was really smooth. I didn't have any issues with them, and they do send you an actual certificate and also a digital copy, which is great. The question I always get asked is how much it costs. So I'm not sure on the prices now, as I did this quite a while back, but I do remember when I purchased my course, it was on a huge discount. So the discount was 60% off. It cost 10K, and I ended up paying 4,000 Rand for it. So completed that, you can complete that on your own pace. You can go look on their website. I'll put a link in the description if you're wanting more info on the course. So basically you run through a study or a chapter, and then you have like a little test or exam or whatever, and you have assignments and stuff like that. So it's very simple. I really loved the TEFL Academy setup. Just need to complete it, I think, within 6 months of purchasing your course. So go have a look on the website. Maybe they have some discount available as well. And like I said, this was over a year ago that I purchased my course, so the prices might differ now. The next question that I get asked quite often is, how did I get a work, and did I get a work before coming over to China? Here is the part that I always feel very stupid, or that I feel very insecure about sharing, but the amount of people that I've had reach out to me telling me they are coming to China, they don't have a degree, they don't have TEFL, they don't have anything, just made me realize that this is why I need to do this video, because so many people are going through what I kind of went through. So there are various ways in which you can do that. By recommending getting in touch with Totally Teach. They are very legit, very trustworthy, and they are on top of it. The only thing for me was I had 0 previous teaching experience. I had no teaching degree, and they are quite a high level agency who works with schools who prefer to have more qualified or more experienced teachers. Say they work with more high level schools who have a little bit of a higher requirement. My friend Danelle recommended that I join a WeChat group or multiple WeChat group and ask around for recruiters or agents who can help me get in touch with schools for interviews. WeChat is an app that you use in China for basically everything. It's kind of like your WhatsApp banking app. It's like so many things. You can book trains, you can book services, you can pay your bills, you can message people on there. So it's basically like the most used app, I would say, here in China. Go ahead and get that. Even if you're not in China yet, it's going to be really helpful for you to communicate and just familiarize yourself with it. And it does have a translation app. This I only realized way later after speaking to a lot of Chinese people and going in and out of my WeChat to translate, where there was a translate option in the app itself. But anyway, I joined a whole lot of groups, asked around for agents or recruiters, found a recruiter who connected me with a whole lot of schools. I did a whole lot of interviews beforehand, and then when I interviewed with my current school, I can't even remember how this happened, but somehow another agent came into play. So another individual who was kind of the second middleman between me and my current school. So I'm happily now working at my school, love the school, so glad I ended up here. I actually re-signed my contract for next year at the current school. I'm just trying to remember and don't remember how this second agent came into play. But anyway, the original recruiter who connected me with my school kind of faded away. How, I'm also not understanding how that happened, but this second agent who later came into play was really where everything kind of went south for me. That is also why I'm always going to recommend to anyone to try and work with legit companies like Totally Teach, because, and you never really know, you don't know. And once I got to China, I heard this more and more and more from different foreigners. But this second agent of mine was, I don't know if I could call her a scammer, but I lost all trust in humanity after working with this human. Not all hope is lost for you, don't worry. I was just so clueless, and I wish I had seen a video like this before fully putting all my trust into this agent, because I was just trusting her every step of the way, but she was just, her main priority is getting me here so that the school can pay her. So essentially, I don't pay the agent to help me with my documents and to get me here. The schools do that. So the agent doesn't care how you get here, as long as you get here fast, because that means they're gonna get their paycheck from the school. So this agent was really rushing me to come over. My documents weren't fully sorted out and in place, and she hadn't given me the correct information on how my documents need, the process it needs to go through to, legally be in order. So I had lost a lot of money with lawyers and shipping my degree, my TEFL certificate, going to lawyers up and down all around South Africa. And it was just a costly process because she hadn't communicated with me correctly. She was just essentially in a rush to get me here. And I didn't feel comfortable and I didn't really like the whole process, but I was still like, okay, you know what, she knows what she's doing. She's done this with multiple humans, so just trust that she knows. And then at a later stage, she was just telling me I need to go through like all these different individuals instead of like a legit lawyer. I was telling her like, okay, wait a minute. I told her I don't trust going through an individual that is not a lawyer that I could communicate with in South Africa via email. So I told her I'm going to use my lawyer that I've connected with in South Africa. You will get the documents when they're done. So I at least drew the line there, but she was really rushing me. She ended up, telling my school one thing, telling me another thing. My school was told all my documents are in order. I can start in August. I can be here, blah, 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 blah. And she was telling me that the school is really mad at me. They are wanting to like scrap the contract if I'm not there by August. And I just felt really pressured and unsure, and again just fully trusting this human being who I assumed was very professional. And she told me I need to come over on a tourist visa. So I went to go apply for a tourist visa just so that I could get into China by the time my school was expecting me to. So I had come over with a tourist visa, which is not the correct visa, obviously, because if I'm wanting to teach here, I need a works visa. And I came over, and as soon as I got here, my school was like, why did you not just get a work visa? And I told them my documents weren't sorted yet. The agent was telling me, you guys are going to cancel my contract. And I feel stupid looking back on it now. I could just get another school. I could just come later. My school could just wait for me. The contract was already signed. So the school could just patiently wait another week. Like, my documents had come the next week after I flew over to China. I felt really silly because I just fully trusted this human being, this agent. And I obviously could have just spoken directly to the school. That is something that I would recommend you do. Speak directly to the school, communicate with them openly, instead of just working through the agent, because I now come to realize after speaking to a whole lot of other foreigners here that is very normal. The agents do like just rushing you, whether your paperwork is sorted out or not. So I ended up having to fly to Hong Kong after getting here to go and redo my whole visa process. So I came to China. I had to book into a hotel because now I can't get accommodation because I don't have a work permit, so I can't get a residence permit. I couldn't apply for a work visa in China mainland, so I had to leave, fly to Hong Kong, get a hotel room there, apply for my visa, pay for my visa, stay in a hotel in Hong Kong until my visa was complete, fly back to China, book into a hotel once again, because then only I could start my process for applying for a residence permit, looking for an apartment, blah, 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 blah. A roller coaster ride of coming here, and again, I wish I had just trusted my gut feeling when it came to this agent who was helping me. My school was also really confused when I arrived because they were told all my documents are in order. So obviously that just wasn't fun. I just felt really disappointed, mostly in myself, because I felt like that is so much unnecessary cost that I just threw down the toilet because I didn't trust my gut. My gut was telling me this is a no-no. And also because I just feel like with a little more research or a little bit more communication, I could have avoided this. But anyway, so here I am now sharing my mistakes so that you hopefully don't have to. After speaking to so many of you guys who have reached out to me and who have told me they're speaking to agents, the agents are telling them like, you just come over, you don't need a degree, you don't need a TEFL, you don't need whatever. I've spoken to someone who's just come straight out of high school with no degree or anything, and she's like, oh, I'm coming to China, see you soon. And I'm like, whoa, slow your horses. This guy is not telling you the facts. And he just completely ghosted her. So it is frustrating to know that there are so many agents and people who just scam foreigners. Be careful when you go through the process of getting here. Make sure you are in constant direct contact with the school. Most schools do have like HR people who work with the foreigners as well, so be sure to stay in contact with them directly, not necessarily only speaking to your agent. That is something that I wish I had done, and yeah, I'm sharing that because I feel absolutely silly. Looking back on my journey, I had lost and wasted and used a lot of money to get myself here, and it's all unnecessary costs. If I had just literally waited another week in South Africa to get my documents to apply for my work visa straight off the bat. But it definitely was a learning journey. It definitely taught me a lot, and I do know that I needed to get through that to learn the lessons that I've learned, and to now moving forward in life with traveling and with moving my life to different countries, how to go through that process and just to listen to my gut more. What you also can do is ask your recruiter or your agent to connect you with other foreigners that they've helped, so that that foreigner can also just confirm whether they are trustworthy or not. Yeah, I joined different WeChat groups. I got in touch with a recruiter. The recruiter set up interviews. I did multiple interviews with different schools. They offered me contracts, and then whatever I felt I wanted to take, I obviously took. So just try to do as many interviews as you possibly can to try to find something you're happy with. I also do get the questions on what the interviews are like. So for my first ever interview, I was so nervous. I actually had to prepare a lesson that I was teaching my kids. And again, I don't have any teaching experience, so I was overthinking this so much. I ended up like doing a little PowerPoint, running through a class, singing a few songs. Some schools do require you to prepare a lesson and teach them. Other schools, the majority of the schools, I just had a Q&A session with, basically, where they were asking me to tell me a little bit more about myself, why I'm wanting to come to China, and then they just ask questions in the moment. And regarding the documents, they'll also touch on. I also, like I said, I'm very lucky that I know someone here in China, so I shared everything openly with her. She also read through the contract, and she also told me this seems sketchy, this seems legit. Was kind of like my white wall, and just kept giving me feedback on what her experience has been like in China. And then the next question is, what is the kind of salaries that you can get here? So again, every person's experience is different, every school is different, every contract is different. So for me, I have never previously taught before. I don't have a teaching degree. I, for example, know someone who does have a teaching degree. Her salary is double what mine is, and so are her benefits. But regardless, there are still schools who are looking for foreign teachers to help teach English. So don't feel discouraged if you're not if you don't have a teaching degree, or if you don't have previous experience. I am really lucky that I have gotten such a great school, and my benefits and salary is really great, and I'm really grateful for that, because just thinking about what current teachers in South Africa are earning, I'm very, very, very grateful that I get to have the salary that I get. What I would say a good starting base would be for someone who doesn't have teaching experience or a teaching degree. From all of the interviews I've done with previous schools last year, and also just interviews this year for potentially moving to a new school, I'd say anything around 19,000 RMB or above, let's say to about 23,000 RMB would be a really good salary for someone who doesn't have any experience and who doesn't have a teaching degree. If you have a teaching degree, your benefits and your salary is going to increase quite a lot, which is obviously great for you if you do have a teaching degree. But yeah, again, every school differs. Every school has different benefits, salary packages. Some schools give housing allowance, which is essentially just extra payout for you to put towards paying your rent. Some schools give flight bonuses, so in other words, they pay out extra money for you that you can then reimburse for your flights that if you want to go travel. So every school has different benefits, different salaries. Also, every city is really, really different. So for example, 2,000 RMB housing allowance can contribute to covering your rent, or it can bring you even more income, because I know some cities you don't even pay 2,000 RMB for an apartment. So every city is also really very different. Okay, and then the next question is, did I get my accommodation before coming over? So no. So once you have your work permit, you can apply for a residency permit after you find an apartment. So I was staying in a hotel for weeks and weeks and weeks on end, and then when I finally got back from Hong Kong with my works visa and everything in place, I then started looking for apartments. I found an apartment. Luckily it's very close to school, so I can just walk to work, and then once I had my residency permit, I moved in and that was sorted. So you will probably have to stay in a hotel before you can find your apartment. Okay, the next question is, what does rent cost? So again, every city is really, really different. My friend, for example, who lives in a really small city, she doesn't even pay 200 or 2,000 RMB. 2,000 is 5,000 Rand. So she doesn't even pay 5,000 Rand, and she has got like a 3-bedroom apartment. It's really modern, really beautiful, balcony, everything. It's absolutely stunning. For me, I've got a 1-bedroom apartment, kitchen, bathroom, and then just in my living area. Honestly, this is more than enough for me. Like, I'm just an individual living here, so I don't need these huge apartments. But my city is a bit bigger, and for me, I pay 3,300 a month, which is a little over 8,000 a month. But again, I'm really grateful that my school gives me housing allowance. You have to pay everything in advance. So for example, my gym and my rent, I pay ahead of time. So if I pay for 3 months at a time. So when I moved into the apartment, I had to put down a deposit, and I also had to put down 3 months of rent. So you pay everything every 3 months essentially. So my electricity bill I pay once a month, and my water every 2 months. So yeah, just keep that in mind. You will just want to remember that you have to pay everything quite a few months in advance. Does my teaching salary cover all my basic expenses? Yes, it definitely does. So that's one thing that's really great about China. The living cost really isn't that expensive here. Food, electricity, water, it really is affordable, and I'm very grateful for that. And transportation methods like the subway is obviously great to utilize, because that's very, very affordable. So yes, I would say very, very confidently that your salary is most likely going to cover all of your expenses while still being able to travel, while still being able to put away savings. So I'm very grateful for that. But again, remember that cities differ from place to place. So some cities have higher living costs, but with that, it generally does also reflect in the salary. So the bigger, busier, more expensive cities usually then have bigger salaries as well. And like I say, most schools do contribute to things like rent by giving you housing allowance, for example. Next question is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how safe is it? So I'd say probably like 9.5. 9.8. So I've actually made an Instagram reel about this. So I have this whole series of an inexperienced South Africa in China, because like I say, I'm very inexperienced when it comes to traveling, and to me that was one thing that was really strange. It's just how safe it is here. I run in the morning at like 4 a.m. and I feel no fear of not being safe. One thing that I immediately recognized as soon as I moved in, because this was one, my first ever apartment, and two, the first ever place I lived where I didn't have a security gate. So that was really weird to me. I was like, oh, I just have one key. This is so simple, so weird. And yeah, things like when you have deliveries and you're not at home, in most community blocks, which is essentially like your little complex, there's like one room where the delivery guys basically leave all your deliveries. So there are lockers, but sometimes the lockers are full, then they just leave your things on the shelf there. So there is just this huge shelf full of different parcels, and you have no fear that someone is going to take your parcel, because that's just how legit it is. It's just so safe, and no one's going to take your stuff. People leave their bicycles, their bikes, their scooters outside. Like if I walk outside in the hallway, there are bicycles standing there, and you don't have a fear that someone is going to snatch your bike. So I'd say it's very, very safe. Okay, so here's a question regarding my visa. How did I do my visa? So like I said, my visa application process wasn't as smooth as it could have been. I applied for 2 visas essentially. So I just went to the China Application Center. It's in Cape Town, or there's one in Cape Town. That's the one I went to, which is on Baikonur Walk. I applied for my tourist visa there, and then in Hong Kong I applied for my works visa. So just make sure you have all your requirements that you need. So obviously you need to have your degree, you need to have your TEFL certificate, and for me, I think for my work visa, I also needed to have a copy of my school contract, and also my school had to basically write a letter to say that I am coming to come work for them. But again, you can find all of that on the China Visa Application Center's website. So just make sure you have all of those with you, and then you can go and apply for the visa. I will also put the link to the Visa Application Center in the description below. Look through there to apply for tourist or for your work visa. How long did it take me to get my visa? So in Cape Town, it was exactly a week. It was actually so stressful because I had booked my plane ticket to fly to China, and I already packed up my life to move to China, but I didn't even have my tourist visa yet. So I didn't even have my visa. I literally went to the application center, picked up my tourist visa, went straight to the airport, moved my ass to China, and to this day I'm still here. So that was obviously very stressful and just not the most ideal way to do it. Arrived to China, flew to Hong Kong, applied for a tourist visa there. I took the express option or the faster option because, like I say, I was living there in a hotel, and somewhere your girl's gotta get out of the hotel space. Took the express option, and then I was in Hong Kong for, I think it was 4 or 5 days, which was then great because then obviously I could explore Hong Kong a little bit more, but you're obviously keeping in mind that you are living on savings for now. Cape Town did not have the express option, because if it did, then I wouldn't have to stress about picking it up right before my flight. Okay, so the next question is, how much would I say is a sum of money that you would need to come over to China to live here and teach here? So like I say, my journey wasn't the smoothest of them all, but, and I know it's a wide stretch, but I would say if you have anything from 100,000 to 150,000, you should be pretty safe. Because reason why I say that is you are obviously going to need to fly. You are going to need to pay for your rent 3 months in advance. You're going to most likely have a realtor who you have to pay, put a deposit down for your apartment as well. And for your work permit and all of these things, you are most likely going to need to go and do health checks and stuff like that. Also, the school does usually reimburse you for your visa and your health checks and stuff like that, but you first need to straight up pay for that. So you need to kind of just have that cash available. So I would say, and I know it's broad, is 100 to 150,000. Again, my scenario wasn't the best that I would recommend you avoid if you possibly can. I applied for my tourist visa, my first visa, to get to China on a Wednesday. They told me I can come pick it up next Thursday. So that Wednesday, I booked my flight for that Thursday. Booking in advance would most likely also save you some expenses, because I booked for the next week, which last minute flights obviously are going to be a bit more expensive. So if you have more time, it's probably going to work out cheaper for you as well. So a little bit of a broad sum amount, but I'd say you're going to be safe if you're in that region. Okay, the next question asked me if it's worth doing something like this if I have another income. So if you didn't know, yes, I am an English teacher here in China, but I also have an online business. So I was doing my online business full-time last year before coming over to China. I then spent a whole month in Bali where I was working remotely from Bali, and I essentially just got the travel bug. I was like, you know what, I want to see the world, I want to travel as much as I can. I connected to my friend Danelle through this online business, and she's been living in China for, like I said, about 7 years now already. So we just started chatting about life in China. and how she also has been doing the business alongside her teaching job for all these years. And I just kind of really love the thought of being in China, as I really just wanted to explore more of Asia and this side of the world. I love Bali. I wanted to go to Thailand, which I've now done. I want to go to Vietnam, the Philippines, and just kind of see this side of the world as much as I possibly can. And obviously being here, being able to earn 2 incomes at once has been the best thing. And living somewhere else, getting to live in the culture is so much different than just going to visit the place. Like, I really do feel like I'm getting a full experience living here in China, and I've really enjoyed it. And I'm still doing my online business, and I still love that to death, and I hopefully get to one day go back to doing that full time. But for now, I really just love experiencing all these different cultures, and that for me was the biggest thing, is just traveling, experiencing cultures. So I'm grateful for the fact that I get to do that, and in such a safe place. And now having Bali, Philippines, Vietnam, Thailand, all of these places basically around the corner is just such a blessing. And China in itself is so huge, and there are so many things to see here. So it's really been such a great experience getting to travel around here. And again, I'm never going to take the fact that I get to earn 2 incomes for granted. It is amazing. I mean, if it's worth doing teaching, considering I'm already earning an income. For me, yes, because it's not fully all about the money. For me, it's also about the experience, about the culture, about the traveling. So I love that I get to pursue what I love, which is my online business, and still have that alongside a full-time job. But I'm also really grateful that I get to travel and I get to experience cultures by physically living in it. So I love that I get to do both, and I'm never going to stop yapping about how grateful and how much I love doing both. Okay, so my last question is, what was the biggest adjustment been, and what will the biggest adjustment be for South Africans moving to China? Again, this is completely me. Like I said, have this whole series on Instagram where I go on about how an inexperienced South African is now living in China. That is me. I'm the inexperienced human. When I went to Bali, that was the first ever trip that I did, and I was freaking out about the bidets that are everywhere. Guys, my Instagram followers were like, bro, you can find a bidet in South Africa. And I was like, I've never in my life seen a bidet. So just to give you an idea of how inexperienced I was/am, I genuinely am going to share these things as someone who's never seen them or experienced them or lived with them. This is me, myself, and I. You could probably be so used to a bidet, or you could probably be so used to any of the next things that I'm gonna name. This is me. This is what's been the biggest adjustment for me. So one is obviously the Chinese apps. You need to translate everything. The apps do sometimes have the option of translating it in English. Some of the translations are actually really hilarious and kind of sometimes inaccurate to the point where it's really just funny. But you're most likely going to screenshot and translate a lot of things in your translating app. So I have an iPhone. It comes with a translating app. I just take screenshots, put it in the app. It translates for me. And that's basically how you get around things. In the beginning, it was really annoying, but it's so part of my system now I don't even realize. You obviously need to have VPN as well if you're wanting to use your normal non-Chinese apps like WhatsApp, Instagram, stuff like that. So that's also something you need to get used to, because if you're using your Chinese apps like to order food, your WeChat to communicate with, Chinese people, you're gonna have to go on and off between your VPN. Also, again, something you get so used to that you don't even realize is part of your day anymore. And yeah, I went to Bali last year in June, July, and I honestly think that was a blessing in disguise, because I think it really eased me into moving my life to China. Because when I was in Bali, I experienced all of these things for the first time. I've never traveled solo before, or I wasn't solo, I was with my boyfriend at the time, and it was definitely an experience. I'd never seen any Asian culture whatsoever, Indonesian food, the scooters, nothing. So everything was very new to me. Everything was very strange, but I loved it. So one thing for me that I found really hilarious in Bali was the fact that everyone rides bikes and scooters and stuff like that, and the majority of them are probably going to be on the sidewalks. So that's something that's also pretty normal here in China, is that you will see people riding their little bikes on the sidewalk. So just like if you're walking in the middle of the road, you're gonna have to look left and right and make sure before you cross the sidewalk from one side to the other, because there's most likely gonna be a scooter coming up behind you. One of the biggest things for me has also definitely been the squat toilets. So it's very normal here in China, and if you do have a Western toilet in your work environment, you're very lucky. I do not have a Western toilet at my school, which is definitely a little something you want to get used to. As a South African, you probably can't before so jy het seker 'n bossie gevang, and that's essentially the same case here. It's like a hole in the ground with basically like a seat on the ground. You don't sit on it, you just squat. You just do your business like that. Not really my favorite thing, I'm not gonna lie, because you kind of want to just like sanitize your shoes once you're done there, or your whole self once you're done there. But to them it's so normal. That's what you'll find most of in public places. If you're lucky, your mall, your school, your whatever, your work environment will have a Western toilet. But yeah, most of the time not. There's also a lot of the time not toilet paper in the toilet stalls, so I always carry a pack of tissues with me, because you're most likely also not going to have that. So I did also break this down in one of my Instagram reels, so go and have a look at that series, because yeah, there are definitely going to be a lot more interesting things that I'm going to share on there. This is also something that's very normal to, I think, most countries, but for me, I had to mentally prepare myself for the transportation system. So I'd never taken a subway or a train or anything like that prior to coming to China, and here it's just so part of the system. So at home in South Africa, where I would just get in my car, drive to the airport and take my flight, here you kind of have to think a little more strategically, because you have to take the subway or a taxi, you have to then get a train to get to the next city, to get to where there's an airport and fly from there. So again, this is just me. I lived in Cape Town, so I was like an hour away from the airport, and I would just drive there, and it was very convenient for me. And now it's like I also just need to do a little bit more of the math to reverse engineer my schedule and see what time I need to leave to get to all my trains, subways, flights on time. So that was definitely also something for me to adjust to, which might be normal to a lot of people in the world, but not to me, okay? The next thing, also, this is probably just me, but it's so normal here to just smoke anywhere and everywhere. No one in my family smokes. In South Africa, I also never experienced a whole lot of overwhelming smokers. So here in the morning when I'm walking to work, it's just like everyone around me is already smoking, and I just woke up. So that was definitely something I instantly recognized coming here, is that there's just a whole lot of smokers everywhere and anywhere, regardless of where you are. Okay, but anyway, that is everything from this very inexperienced South African human to the rest of you. If I didn't answer any of your questions and you're wanting to know anything a little bit more in detail, feel free to reach out and ask me. You can also follow me on my other social media platforms, because there, like I say, I do share more and more in like day in the lives of my life here in China, or other things that I've come to adjust to as a South African in China. Thank you guys so much for joining me and for sending me so many questions. I hope I could answer everything and that it was helpful. I hope to see you on the next one.